I know you guys are deep, but how do you handle, some of the, feelings getting hurt, some of that stuff that is like basically inevitable with a team like this?
I don't think you can avoid feelings getting hurt. It's a part of the NBA.
The Golden State Warriors might be making a huge mistake. Jonathan Kuminga could possibly be coming off the Warriors bench to start the season. What in the absolute hell is going on, and why is this even being floated as a possibility? Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Switch Culture. ESPN's Kendra Andrews just posted an article about one of the biggest questions going into the 2024-25 NBA season. That question is, who will be in the Warriors starting lineup? In that article, it was stated that some inside the Warriors staff do not believe that Jonathan Kuminga can play as the team's small forward. This is a huge blow to the Warriors' offensive versatility, as Jonathan Kuminga was one of the biggest difference makers on the team last season. This news is so outrageous that we're starting to potentially question it, considering Andrews had been caught lying at least on one other occasion, spreading misinformation about the team when she misquoted Steph Curry on a comment that was allegedly made prior to the Game 5 matchup versus the Memphis Grizzlies a couple of years ago. Then we have the fact that JK has been playing the small forward in the preseason games and seems to be doing fairly well. Lastly, Draymond Green's recent comments on what role Kuminga should be playing with the team should have cleared up any questions, yet here we are. If we are to believe that this organization doesn't believe Kuminga can play as the team's starting small forward, this could mean that there is something else much bigger at play. And that something might have to do with the Warriors deciding to move the team forward into the future, or sticking with the nostalgia that made this team great back in the day. Steve Kerr even chimed in, so if you'd like to find out exactly what's going on, what this has to do with Draymond Green, and how things could shake out, be sure to watch the whole video. Just don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Switch Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. Now get ready. You're about to get As big of an issue the Golden State Warriors have had in filling their shooting guard slot, there seems to be an even bigger problem filling out the middle of the lineup, namely the small forward position.
Steve, you've talked previously about the importance of Jonathan being able to play 3 in addition to 4, and that you've thought of him as a 4 in the past. Has he done enough to convince you he can play 3, and what specifically does that mean? Handling the ball better, shooting threes better, defending the perimeter better?
The first thing for us is pace. So the other night he played the 3. He played fast, as soon as there was a change of possession, he was sprinting. He's got to be better defensively, got to be better on his closeouts. The last couple games, he's been blown by a few times. What I loved about that last game is the force and it came from his speed, running in both directions. That makes up for a lot of stuff, and so that's the number one priority for me.
A few months prior to the end of last season, this would have been an easy call. Wiggins had been on a constant decline and had seemingly checked out of the team. In short, he left a lot to be desired on either end of the floor. That made room for the Warriors' up-and-coming talent in Jonathan Kuminga, who along with Moses Moody had been starving for minutes ever since he walked through the doors of the franchise. At 6'7" and 225 pounds, JK would make an intriguing force that could replace what's been a lackluster performance from the former All-Star. This seemed like it would make the perfect opportunity. The problem, and hence its solution, hasn't been so simple for the Warriors, however, and this is mainly because of what I'm going to say next. The Warriors in prior seasons have not been using Jonathan Kuminga as a small forward. As a matter of fact, 96% of his minutes were played at power forward. So it wasn't 100% Wiggs' disappearance that gave rise to an opportunity for Kuminga. His disappearance gave rise to Pods, as we saw Clay move to the 3 and Pods moved in at the 2. It was the disappearance of another staple in the Warriors' front lines that allowed Steve Kerr to find an opportunity, the one which he presented to Jonathan Kuminga. That was Draymond Green. Multiple suspensions saw Draymond Green miss a total of 27 games last season, and this opened the door for Jonathan Kuminga to see minutes on the floor as a starter. While it's true that Kuminga forced Steve Kerr's hand, it was a combination of these two things that led to JK averaging 26 minutes per game. The Warriors struggled to find scoring next to Stephen Curry, and as a team that typically scores from the guard or small forward positions, this led to some changes in the dynamic. Typically, the Warriors scored from the outside, utilizing their inside players such as Looney and Draymond as facilitating pieces, setting the screens and finding their shooters open. With Jonathan Kuminga's skill set in the starting lineup, Kerr seems to believe they have to approach the offense from the inside out instead of from the outside in. Drive and kick instead of shoot, space the floor, and drive to the open basket. There's no doubt that this is one of the main reasons the Warriors don't get to the free throw line as much. Steve is probably averse to this idea as it changes his entire system, but something has to give. Either Steve Kerr plays Kuminga at the 3 in the starting lineup and trusts his young player to come through, or he puts him at the 4 where he doesn't have Draymond's particular skill set to complement Steph Curry in a way that they know has led to winning championships and might actually be disastrous. Hence the focus on giving Kuminga the green light to shoot threes this preseason. If JK can knock these down, the Warriors maintain their outside-in approach, generating their offense from their small forward. If he can't, this leads to the third option, which is to have Kuminga come off the bench, which allows Steve Kerr to maintain his offense. Now here's where things get really interesting. The comment about Kuminga not being able to play the 3 might not actually be the negative opposition we think. What if that comment was made in the interest of having Kuminga slot in at the 4 to start in place of Draymond Green? There might actually be some credence to this, as we see where despite the fact that Kuminga has been playing the power forward position all of the prior season with some minimal roles at center, Draymond says he believes Kuminga to be a 3 and essentially doesn't have the skill set to play the 4, a bit of a slight jab. Is Draymond really of that belief, or is he trying to protect his spot as a starter that complements Stephen Curry as a secondary ball handler? Could the integration of Terry Stotts into the coaching staff have such an impact where Stotts is likely opposed to trying to fit Kuminga squarely into the Draymond role and thinks the offense could be molded to allow JK to thrive next to Curry? I say yes, and here's why. Jonathan Kuminga is the second most gifted scorer behind Curry in the lineup, even eclipsing him on some nights when it comes to certain matchups or when Curry is having an off night. If Curry is having such a night, where are you going to get your scoring? You will need someone who can get inside, draw the contact, and get to the line. There's only one player on the team that can do that reliably. Put him next to Curry and both players have an easier time scoring. With JK attacking the paint, he either collapses the defense, allowing Steph Curry breathing room, or he's able to take the hit and shoot free throws. If we know his facilitating or kick out is not good enough to do your typical drive and kick, make adjustments to have players in position to provide relief. The vacuum he creates on the drive should have the offense rotate because that will give him an easy pass and the rotating player a wide open shot. The goal is to either force opposing teams to guard him with one player, which we've seen is extremely difficult, or if they double team him, he has an easy out to give our many shooters open looks. In order for this to work immediately, you need good defenders and shooters in your other 3 slots. So what does this look like in terms of lineups? You play Kuminga next to Draymond and Wiggins. For the 5th spot, you have a few options. The default would be to put Trace at the 5, and in theory, this works. You have your best balance of perimeter defense to contest shooters, paint protection to prevent easy drives to the basket, rim protection, perimeter offense, interior offense, athleticism, size, ball movement, and lob threat. But let's say a few in the staff don't think JK can work as the 3. We move Trace, stick Melton at the 2, Wiggins at the 3, JK as a 4, and Dre as the 5. You lose rim protection and lob threat for floor spacing. When Klay played alongside Steph and Curry, 40% of Steph's shots were heavily contested. When he played without Klay, 50% of his shots were heavily contested. Steph Curry actually makes more of the shots when he's heavily contested, although his volume suffers. But if he's still getting up half his shots without them being heavily contested, how much is that extra spacing really worth? By the way, even though I said Wiggins at the 2, consider that Moses Moody could be utilized at this slot instead of Wiggins if we're not getting all-star Wiggins. So that's not a slight to Moody, it's simply maximizing the potency of this lineup. So let's say we don't want to lose that rim protection, but we want that spacing. We start with a lineup of Curry, Moody, Wiggins, Kuminga, and Trace. Without a secondary facilitator, this becomes an entirely new offense. You basically have 3 wings who can all initiate, 3 legit shooters, and rim protection. This becomes an inside-out offense which looks strong but could be vulnerable to a box and 1 defense. This is the defense that Raptors used against Steph Curry in the 2019 NBA Finals. So as the coach, how do you respond to that? focus on players that not only shoot, but can find different ways to score while also giving you elite coverage on the defensive end. If you're worried about your secondary facilitator, you have 4 players who can create their own shot, including Steph. All you have to do is run a few sets and get these guys open if you want them to catch and shoot. Kuminga has the lowest turnover percentage on the team this preseason. Who's next to him? Moses Moody. So now you have defenders, shooters, rim protection, lower turnovers, slashers, athleticism, and size, not to mention that outside of Steph, you're fielding 2 22-year-olds, a 24-year-old, and a 29-year-old. This is a lineup that could support Steph Curry for the rest of his career if we're talking age. My bet is someone on the inside is proposing this lineup, and while I'm very interested in seeing how this would work in practice, it's not likely to happen. So let's go back to what the team would rather do realistically. Put Jonathan Kuminga on the bench. This option allows Steve Kerr to maintain his outside-in approach. We play with Steph, Melton, Wiggins, Draymond, and Trace. Melton's off-ball movement, however, makes him a seamless fit into Kerr's offense. Draymond and Trace playing together provides proven defense, and with Dre as the secondary offensive initiator, this ensures the motion offense can still operate. Whether or not it will be effective, however, is another thing altogether. From what I've seen, other teams have caught up with execution of the offense, but have gone a step further and surpassed the Warriors by doing it with players that have more size. The fact that pre-injury Klay is missing could mean that the offense with Draymond ends up struggling to win at the highest level. The lineup without Draymond is indeed risky, but it's a bet that has paid off for a number of teams. We can also attest that allowing your best players to find their offense is probably a better option, as this was the reason Stotts found so much success with the Blazers, considering the team didn't find any in the years just before him nor after him. Steve would rather keep Draymond in the starting lineup and see if JK can become a much higher volume shooter. So I guess at the end of the day, the question isn't whether or not Kuminga should start. They're wondering if he could start next to Draymond in Curry's system as defined by Steve Kerr. Do we hold on to nostalgia with Draymond Green as a staple in the lineup, or do we value his defense over Jonathan Kuminga's offense? I'd argue that Kuminga could stand around and find Stephen Curry open off a screen if he wanted to, but considering he can actually create his own shot, it becomes unnecessary, and he can always find Curry on a kickout when he drives to the basket. Not to mention, if you bench Kuminga, there's no way he stays after his rookie contract is up, and depending on how this season goes, Moody might be on the same track. As always, however, my opinion isn't the only one that matters. I'd love to hear from your perspective. Should Jonathan Kuminga start in place of Draymond? Why or why not? Let me know your lineups that don't include Draymond and we can talk about it. Post your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, a shout out to the current members of my channel. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. For the price of a cup of coffee, you could become a member of the Swish community. Haywood Broussard and Eddie Jalman, I sincerely appreciate you guys, and hopefully you enjoy everything my channel offers for this upcoming season. I'm looking forward to giving you guys the best Warriors and NBA content on the planet. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swish!